Hey everyone, tonight we're talking about the busy and sometimes weird life of people from the Stone Age. What did cavemen do all day? It wasn't just breaking rocks or figuring out fire like you see in movies. Before you settle in, give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you like what I'm sharing. Also, drop a comment to tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's cool to see who's joining us from all over. Now, turn down the lights, maybe switch on a fan for some background noise, and let's dive in. A caveman's day started at sunrise, or a bit earlier if the wind was loud or someone was coughing nearby. They slept on animal skins or just on hard ground, maybe with some dry grass or leaves for comfort. You'd sleep close to a fire for warmth and to keep bugs and animals away. Sleeping alone wasn't smart unless you wanted to wake up missing a toe. People lived in small groups, family, relatives, or whoever was around. Privacy? Forget it. Everyone heard everything. First thing in the morning, you'd check the fire. If it was out, someone had to restart it, which took time and a lot of stick rubbing. If it was cold, which happened a lot, everyone was grumpy until the fire was going again. Then you'd check your tools, spears, knives, or scrapers for hunting or protection. Keeping them sharp was a must. No tools, no food or safety. Some people were better at making tools, so you might borrow from them, but they'd probably want something back. Kids woke up first, making noise and looking for food or something to do. Adults got up slowly and started the day, maybe fetching water, checking traps, or looking for animal tracks. There was no chilling out. The goal was simple: stay warm, find food, stay safe. If you woke up okay, the fire was still going, and nothing scary was nearby, you were already winning. Hygiene back then wasn't like today. You cleaned up only when you had to, like if the smell bothered the group. If there was a stream and it wasn't freezing, you'd wash there. Otherwise, you'd use leaves, sand, or even animal fat to clean off dirt. Fat also kept you warm and bugs away, so it wasn't as weird as it sounds. No toothbrushes, but some chewed sticks or bones to clean their teeth. Their food, tough meat, raw grains, and sometimes sand from grinding stones, wore down teeth, but cavities weren't common since they didn't eat sugar. Losing teeth from injuries, though, was a problem. Hair. Usually long, tied back, or ignored. Lice were everywhere. Some used ash, dirt, or animal oil to deal with them, or just scratched and hoped for the best. Later on, some had basic combs. Clothes were animal skins, not washed much, and smelled bad. People got used to it or blamed the guy by the fire. Most went barefoot or wore simple hide shoes. Caves had a strong smell, but people's immune systems were tough, and they knew enough to avoid getting really sick. Everyone smelled similar, so it wasn't a big deal unless you did something crazy, like rubbing dead animal on yourself for hunting camouflage. No set breakfast time. You ate what was left from yesterday, if you were lucky, maybe some dried meat by the fire. That was like winning a prize. But usually, if the hunt failed or some sneaky animal stole the food, you'd go looking for roots, berries, or edible plants. Kids and animals often got to them first. Food depended on the season: greens in spring, fruit in summer, and hunger in winter. Small animals like birds or rabbits were caught sometimes, even insects like grubs or termites. Not tasty, but they kept you going. You'd share with family, but food wasn't about being polite, it was survival. If someone shared, they were either kind or the boss. Water came from streams or rivers if you were lucky. If not, puddles it was. No boiling, so sometimes you got sick. Leftovers from a big hunt, like smoked meat or bone marrow, were rare and precious. People hid them, but kids with sticks always found a way. Mornings were a gamble: maybe you'd get berries and a half-cooked squirrel, or maybe nothing. Nobody skipped breakfast on purpose. After eating, or realizing there was no food, the next job was fixing tools. Tools weren't just stuff, they were how you survived. No sharp tools, no cutting meat or defending yourself. A lot of the day was spent hitting rocks to shape them. Stone Age toolmaking was part skill, part guesswork, and all about not smashing your fingers. They used flint or, if they lived near a volcano, fancier obsidian. These rocks broke in ways you could control to make sharp edges. You'd have hand axes, scrapers, spear tips, or just a rock with a handle. Each tool had a job: cutting meat, shaping wood, or something else, like hitting stuff. Most people made their own tools. Hey everyone, let's keep the relaxing vibes going with this cozy video about life in the Stone Age. Settle in, maybe grab a blanket, and let's picture a calm evening by the fire as we explore what it was like back then. Some people were better at things than others. If someone in the group was great at making sharp spear tips, they got a lot of respect and plenty of people asking for help. Tools needed constant sharpening. A dull tool was useless and could even be risky: you might hurt yourself or waste time. Every day, people worked on their stones, shaping and testing them. Sometimes you'd spend hours making a tool, only for it to break right away. No whining, though, you just started over. Tools were shared, passed down, or sometimes even taken. Losing your tools was bad news. Without something sharp, you were in trouble, especially if a hungry animal showed up. People got creative, too. Someone might tie a rock to a stick with animal sinew to make a hammer. Others used bones, which were light and good for small jobs. These little ideas were the start of bigger things, even if people were just trying to make their work easier. Once tools were ready and breakfast, or no, was sorted, it was time for the big job: hunting. Hunting wasn't something you did alone. It was a group effort, with everyone who could help joining in, plus maybe one person yelling stuff like, "Go left," or, "That's not a deer." Big animals like mammoths, bison, or wild horses were the best catches. They could feed everyone for days. But they were dangerous. Mammoths didn't just stand there, they were fast and not happy about people with sticks. Planning a hunt took teamwork. Some people scouted for animals, others set up traps like pits covered with branches or used rivers and cliffs to corner the animals. Then came the attack: lots of shouting, spear throwing, and running. The goal was to take down something big without anyone getting hurt. For smaller animals like deer or rabbits, it was simpler. You'd use spears, clubs, or traps. But things could still go wrong, like chasing a pig through the woods and coming back empty-handed. Sometimes the group returned with meat and bragging rights. Other times, they came back with just scratches and excuses, like, "The wind messed us up," or "Someone sneezed." Meat wasn't just food, it was a big deal. The person who got the kill might get first pick or fewer chores, but sharing was important. You needed your group, and fighting over food made things awkward around the fire. Hunting was about teamwork, taking risks, and thinking fast, all while trying not to get stomped. Not everyone hunted. Some had the calmer job of gathering food that didn't run away. Foraging wasn't as exciting as hunting, but it was super important and often more reliable. You might not catch a deer, but you could usually find some berries. Women, older folks, and kids too young to hunt would wander around looking for plants, nuts, roots, or mushrooms, anything that wouldn't make you sick. Knowing what was safe to eat took practice. Sometimes people learned the hard way, and not everyone made it. Foragers knew their area well, remembering where to find good roots or nuts and which plants to avoid. They passed this knowledge down carefully. Foraging wasn't always safe, though. You might have to deal with birds, squirrels, or even bears fighting over the same berries. Stepping on a wasp nest while reaching for honey? Yeah, that only happened once. Foragers also grabbed other stuff, like firewood, feathers, or herbs for medicine. Kids came along, learning as they went, sometimes trying to eat things they shouldn't. You had to watch them while debating if that mushroom looked okay. Foraged food was often more dependable than meat. Plants don't run, and nuts don't fight back. A good day's haul could feed everyone for a bit, especially when the hunters came back with nothing. Foragers were the unsung heroes, quietly keeping everyone fed. Fire was the heart of Stone Age life. It cooked your food, kept you warm, scared off animals, and let you see at night. Without it, life got tough fast. Every group had one rule: keep the fire going. Someone was always stuck watching it, adding wood, and stressing if it got low. It wasn't a fun job, but it was a must. Going without food was bad, but losing the fire was a group crisis. Starting a fire from scratch was hard, rubbing sticks until your hands hurt, hoping for a spark. If it was cold or the wood was wet, good luck. That's why groups tried to keep the fire alive, even when moving. Someone might carry a hot coal wrapped in moss, and that job came with a lot of pressure. Collecting fuel was part of it, too. Dry wood, kindling, or even animal dung, anything that burned worked. Kids helped, though they sometimes brought back useless stuff like wet sticks. The fire was also where everyone hung out. People sat around it, told stories, ate, and argued about whose turn it was to keep watch. It was like the first living room, but if you fell asleep on duty, everyone got cold. Nobody thanked you for keeping the fire going, but if it went out, you got all the blame and had to start sparking. Not everyone lived in caves, even though caves were awesome: natural shelter, no wind, solid walls. But they weren't always free, especially if another group or animal got there first. So, people built their own shelters. No fancy plans, just whatever worked to keep out the weather. If you didn't have a cave, you'd make huts from wood, bones, mud, or grass. You'd tie branches or big bones together with vines or sinew, then cover it with hides or dirt. It wasn't pretty, but it kept you dry and safe. Now, take a deep breath, picture yourself by that warm fire, and let the stress of the day melt away as we imagine this ancient, simple life. Imagine settling into a cozy evening, maybe with a warm drink, as we continue our relaxing journey into the Stone Age. Picture yourself by a flickering fire, the world slowing down, as we explore how early humans lived, loved, and created. Their shelters weren't perfect, kind of lopsided and a bit leaky, but better than standing in the rain. Building was a team job. One person held sticks, another tied them together, and someone else stood around acting like they knew what was going on. If the whole thing fell apart, no one was shocked. They just grabbed more sticks and tried again. Weather was a constant hassle. Rain turned floors into muddy messes. Wind could tear off hide roofs like nature was rearranging things. Snow could flatten a weak shelter. So, some groups made light huts for summer and sturdier ones for freezing winters. Insulation was a treat, animal hides on the walls or floor if you were lucky. Otherwise, you just piled on more clothes and grumbled. The fire sat in the middle, with a hole in the roof for smoke, though it often let in as much cold as it let out smoke. Furniture? Not really. A rock to sit on, a flat spot to sleep, and maybe a pile of hides. A cozy corner with no drafts was the dream. These homes weren't fancy, but they kept you alive, mostly dry, and sometimes standing during a storm. Raising kids in the Stone Age. No guidebooks, no gadgets, just you and a tiny, loud human in a world full of cliffs, wild animals, and sharp rocks. You had to keep them safe while still holding onto your spear and your patience. Childbirth was tough, messy, painful, and risky. If you made it through, great. Now you had to stop your kid from poking the fire or eating random berries. No diapers, just wraps of hides or soft plants, and you learned fast to put babies on rocks for easy cleanup. Moms breastfed for years since there was no baby food, and chewing meat for a toddler wasn't practical. Discipline was straightforward. If a kid got too close to danger, you didn't talk it out, you grabbed them and shouted, "Don't fall." Kids learned fast because mistakes like touching fire or chasing animals could end badly. But it wasn't all scary. Kids played with sticks, rocks, feathers, or bugs, anything fun. Play taught them skills. A kid who loved throwing rocks might grow up to be a great hunter. One who watched the elders might become a healer. No one asked, "What do you want to be?" You just grew into something based on what you were good at and if you stayed alive. Older kids helped out, grabbing firewood, fetching water, or shooing birds away from food. By age 10, they were half helpful, half annoying members of the group. There were no schools, but kids learned by watching, copying, and getting muddy. Toys. Just nature, with no warning labels. After a long day of hunting, gathering, dodging animals, and parenting without a break, people finally got some chill time. It wasn't fancy parties, but it was something. Everyone gathered around the fire when the sun went down. It was warm, lit up the dark, and kept animals away. The fire was the heart of the group, where people ate, talked, and relaxed. They didn't chat about random stuff. They told stories about the day's hunt, wild adventures, or spirits and ancestors. These stories weren't just fun, they passed down tips, like what to eat or where to hunt, all with big gestures and grunts. Music and dancing happened, too, but it was casual. Someone might bang rocks together or hum. Kids would spin around until they fell over. They made sounds with bones, stretched hides, or anything that sounded cool. Bragging was big, too. Killed an animal. You'd mention it a lot. Made a sharp tool. You'd show it off like it was no big deal. Status came from skills. Who could hunt, lead, or keep the fire going without burning themselves? Flirting happened, but it was low-key. Sharing food, sitting close, or not laughing when someone messed up was a sign you liked them. Romance was more about teamwork than sweet words. You lived with a small group, so your options were limited, basically whoever wasn't family or already taken. No dating apps, just sharing a roasted squirrel and hoping for the best. Flirting was practical. Giving someone extra berries or helping them carry water. That was a move. Looks weren't a big deal, everyone was covered in fur and dirt. What mattered was if you could hunt or gather well. Relationships were usually long-term for raising kids and surviving tough times, but they weren't always forever. If things didn't work, you just stopped working together, no drama, just quiet meals. Early humans weren't super jealous, group survival mattered more than personal feelings. Love was simple. Sharing a blanket, staying safe together, and no dishes to fight over. Even with all the hard work, people found time for art. They didn't have museums, but they had cave walls, and those walls were perfect for drawing. Cave paintings, some over 30,000 years old, showed animals like bison, deer, or mammoths, drawn so well you could almost see them move. They used charcoal, crushed rocks, or dirt mixed with water or fat for paint. Brushes? Just fingers, sticks, or bones to smear or spray it on. Why did they paint? Maybe to tell stories or honor spirits, no one's sure. But as you picture those glowing cave walls, let the calm of their creativity wash over you, connecting us to a time when life was simple, raw, and full of wonder. Picture yourself unwinding by a crackling fire, the soft glow calming your mind as we continue our soothing journey into the Stone Age. Let's keep the relaxed vibes going and dive into how early humans expressed themselves, survived challenges, and lived their daily lives. Some people back then probably just loved making art and no one stopped them. Experts think cave paintings might have been part of hunting rituals, like a way to wish for good luck or share tips about which animals to hunt or avoid. These artists worked deep in caves, lit only by firelight, in places no one even lived. They weren't painting for fame or followers, just to create something real. Kids got involved too, leaving tiny handprints on cave walls, learning to make their own mark. Someone probably stood nearby, grunting, "Nice job," or giving annoying advice. The amazing thing? These paintings outlasted everything else. Huts rotted, fires died, but those animals still run across cave walls today. It shows that even 30,000 years ago, people needed more than food and shelter, they needed to create, and maybe they just really liked bison. Getting sick or hurt back then was like playing a risky game with no good outcomes. No doctors, no medicine, no clinics. If you cut yourself or got a weird rash, you hoped your body could handle it. If not, everyone sat around the fire, hoping it wasn't catchy. They knew a little about healing, chewing certain plants, like willow bark, which actually works like aspirin. Someone figured that out by munching on a tree. For cuts, they'd clean them with water or plants, wrap them in moss or hides, and keep an eye out. Infections were the real danger, not the wound itself. No clean bandages meant a smelly, red wound was bad news. Broken bones sometimes healed, sometimes didn't. Old bones show some people got care and rest, but others kept moving because they had to. Toothaches were rough, teeth wore down from tough food and grit. If a tooth went bad, they'd knock it out with a rock, no numbing. Healers, like shamans, used plants, chants, and maybe some trippy herbs. It wasn't science, but it worked sometimes. It was all about trying, hoping, and surviving. If you didn't make it, someone else took your fire spot by night. Travel meant walking, always. No carts, no roads, no rides. You moved camp, chased animals, or avoided annoying neighbors by foot. Stone Age people were nomads, moving when food ran out or animals left. Trips could be short, like a day to a hunting spot, or long, taking weeks across miles. You carried everything, tools, hides, kids, maybe some food, on your back in leather bags or woven baskets. Weather made it tough, rain, snow, wind, all while a kid whined about walking uphill. No maps, just memory, a funny-shaped mountain or a smelly river bend was your guide. Groups stuck together, moving carefully, with scouts checking for danger. If someone got hurt or the weather turned, you found shelter fast. Getting lost was deadly. Still, people crossed huge distances, leaving tools and bones across continents, driven by sore feet and a need to see what was out there. After a long day of hunting, gathering, fixing tools, and keeping kids alive, everyone ended up back at the fire. When the sun set, darkness hit fast, no lights, just the fire's glow. Dinner, if you had it, was roasted meat or boiled roots, eaten with your hands or a sharp stick. Everyone sat in a circle, sharing food. There were rules, like don't grab the last bite unless you caught it. After eating, people talked, stories about hunts, spirits, or that guy who tried to pet a porcupine. These tales weren't just fun, they taught kids what to eat or where to hunt, with lots of dramatic waving. Sometimes they sang simple chants or played bones like flutes or logs like drums. It wasn't fancy, but it pushed the cold away. Kids fell asleep first, curled up in furs. Adults stayed up, staring at the flames, maybe thinking, maybe just zoning out. Someone always checked the fire, adding wood or fixing windbreaks. If they forgot, everyone would grumble in the morning. Now, let's shift to a different kind of spark, one that changed the world. In 1938, two German scientists, Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann, hit uranium with neutrons and accidentally split it. This was nuclear fission, and it sent shockwaves through science. If controlled, it could create a massive explosion. This scared scientists, especially in the US, because Nazi Germany, with its top physicists, might build a devastating bomb. Leo Szilard, a Hungarian scientist who escaped Europe, saw the danger. With Albert Einstein, he wrote to President Roosevelt in 1939, warning about Germany's lead. Roosevelt started a small uranium project, but it wasn't urgent yet. By 1941, after Pearl Harbor and proof a bomb was possible, the US got serious. General Leslie Groves, who built the Pentagon, led the Manhattan Project in 1942 to beat the Nazis to the bomb. He picked J. Robert Oppenheimer, a brilliant physicist who loved poetry and math, to run the science. It was a massive, secret, $2 billion effort that changed war and the world. The Manhattan Project was like a hidden world. 3 main sites drove it: Los Alamos, New Mexico, where scientists like Oppenheimer, Niels Bohr, and Richard Feynman worked out the bomb's design; Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where huge factories separated rare uranium-235, and another site not mentioned here. Most workers didn't know the full plan, just their small part. It was a race against time, built on brains, secrecy, and the hope of staying ahead. As you relax, imagine the contrast: the quiet glow of a Stone Age fire versus the world-changing spark of science. Let the warmth of this story wrap around you, easing you into a peaceful moment. Let's settle back into that warm, calming glow of the fire as we continue our relaxing journey, blending the ancient simplicity of the Stone Age with the monumental shift of the nuclear age. Picture yourself in a quiet, cozy space, letting the story unfold like a gentle evening breeze. The Manhattan Project was a massive effort, like a secret world within America. Thousands of workers, mostly women, ran machines they didn't fully understand, helping create the fuel for the bomb without knowing it. In Hanford, Washington, they made plutonium, the other key ingredient for the bomb. It didn't exist naturally, so they built huge reactors in the middle of nowhere to produce it. These reactors ran non-stop, creating a new element and new dangers: radiation leaks and pollution that started the nuclear age's environmental problems. Over 130,000 people worked on the project, more than some small states' populations. They lived in hidden towns with houses, schools, and shops, all behind fences. Mail was checked, phone calls were listened to, and most workers only knew their small part of the job. Even the vice president, Harry Truman, didn't know the full story until he became president. It wasn't just science, it was a mix of factories, military rules, and real life. People fell in love, had kids, got hurt, or just got bored, all while building something they couldn't name. It was like a shadow America, working day by day toward the deadliest weapon ever. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the scientist in charge, wasn't your typical leader. He was brilliant, spoke 6 languages, loved poetry, and smoked like a chimney. He wasn't just book smart, he knew how to handle people and keep big egos in check, which was tough with so many genius scientists around. But he had a past. His ties to Communist Party members, like his brother and girlfriend, worried the military. General Groves trusted him anyway, but they kept a close eye on him. At Los Alamos, Oppenheimer was everywhere. Scribbling equations, debating designs, and barely sleeping. He believed the bomb was needed to stop the Nazis, but as Germany lost and the war shifted, he started to question what they were doing. The bomb wasn't just for defense anymore, it was becoming a political tool. This weighed on him. Every step forward meant creating something that could change the world forever, and not always for the better. By late 1944, ideas turned into plans, plans into parts, and parts into actual bombs. Building a nuclear bomb wasn't like making a car, it was brand new and incredibly hard. They worked on 2 bombs. The first, called Little Boy, used uranium from Oak Ridge. It worked by smashing 2 pieces of uranium together to start a chain reaction, simple but terrifying. Getting enough uranium was a huge task, every bit took massive effort, and they needed over 60 kilograms. There was no practice run, it had to work perfectly the first time. The second bomb, Fat Man, used plutonium, which was trickier. The uranium method wouldn't work, so they designed an implosion system, where explosives squeezed a plutonium core in a split second. It was like crushing a steel ball with dynamite, perfectly, without breaking it. Plutonium was dangerous, toxic and unstable. Accidents happened. One scientist, Harry Daghlian, died after dropping a piece into a plutonium core, causing a deadly radiation spike. Another, Louis Slotin, died later in a similar mistake. Every step was risky, physically, mentally, and morally. Time was tight. Germany had given up, but Japan was still fighting, and the government wanted the bomb fast. The pieces, casings, detonators, cores, were coming together, each a scientific marvel, ready to become the most destructive weapon ever. On July 16, 1945, at 5:29 a.m., the world changed in the New Mexico desert. They called the test Trinity, the first ever nuclear bomb explosion. It used the Fat Man's plutonium design, which was risky. No one knew if it would work, fizzle, or wipe out everything nearby. Scientists, including Oppenheimer and Groves, watched from miles away, wearing dark goggles and even sunscreen, unsure what the blast would do. Some even bet on whether it would set the air on fire, a crazy thought now, but they weren't sure then. When it went off, the desert lit up brighter than the sun. The shockwave knocked people down, the heat burned miles away, and a mushroom cloud shot 40,000 feet high. The ground seemed to hold its breath. One person said it felt like the world's birth, another, like the gates of hell. Oppenheimer quoted an ancient text, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The test worked, scarily well. It proved the US had a weapon that could erase cities in seconds. The sand turned to glass, called trinitite, and the silence that followed was heavy with awe and fear. They'd crossed a line that could never be undone. The news stayed secret, locked tight. Now, as you relax, imagine the contrast, the quiet creativity of Stone Age cave art against the earth-shaking power of that desert blast. Let the weight of the day slip away, wrapped in the warmth of this story, connecting the past's simplicity to humanity's complex journey. Let's keep the calm, soothing atmosphere as we sit by our imaginary fire, letting the story of the Stone Age and the dawn of the nuclear age unfold gently. Picture yourself in a quiet moment, the flicker of flames grounding you as we explore the profound choices and consequences that shaped history. At the Potsdam Conference in Germany, President Truman got a coded message: the baby is born. The Trinity test had worked, and the US now held a weapon that could destroy entire cities. The war in the Pacific raged on, Japan hadn't surrendered. The question wasn't whether to use the bomb, but where and when. Less than a month later, on August 6, 1945, a B-29 bomber called Enola Gay took off from Tinian Island, carrying Little Boy, the uranium bomb. Its target was Hiroshima, a military hub but also home to many civilians. At 8:15 a.m., the bomb dropped. In 43 seconds, it exploded, flattening 5 square miles. The heat hit 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit, killing over 70,000 people instantly, some vaporized, others crushed. Fires burned, and survivors, injured and blinded, wandered through a ruined city of ash and steel. In the weeks that followed, tens of thousands more died from radiation, burns, and shock. The world had never seen such destruction. Japan's leaders didn't surrender right away. Some pushed for peace, others wanted conditions. The US, seeing no clear response, prepared another bomb. On August 9, Fat Man, the plutonium bomb, was dropped on Nagasaki after clouds hid the first target, Kakura. The blast was slightly less devastating due to the city's layout, but still, about 40,000 people died instantly. Factories, homes, and temples vanished. Thousands more died later from injuries and radiation. That day, Japan's leaders met in chaos. Emperor Hirohito stepped in, speaking directly to his people for the first time, announcing surrender. The war ended, but the questions began. Did the bombs force peace, or did they start something worse? Were they needed, or just a show of power? Some scientists wanted a test explosion to warn Japan, not a city strike, but their ideas were ignored. General Groves felt no regret, but others wrestled with the cost. The bombs brought peace through fear, and the world entered a new era where destruction loomed over every decision. At Los Alamos, the mood was heavy. The bomb worked, the war was over, but photos of ruined cities and burned bodies reached the scientists. They'd built a weapon that shocked even them. Stories from survivors, called hibakusha, told of burns, cancers, and lifelong pain. Scientists like Oppenheimer, once the heart of the project, were shaken. He told President Truman, "I have blood on my hands." Truman wasn't impressed, calling him overly emotional. But the guilt wasn't just Oppenheimer's. Scientists like Leo Szilard pushed for open nuclear research and global control to avoid a weapons race, but their warnings were brushed off. The US created the Atomic Energy Commission and tightened secrecy. The Cold War began, and the Soviets, already spying on the Manhattan Project, rushed to build their own bomb. The project wasn't as secret as hoped. Soviet spies, like Klaus Fuchs, a scientist at Los Alamos, sent detailed bomb plans to Moscow. His notes helped the Soviets build their weapon. Others, like Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, were accused of passing secrets, too. Their 1953 trial and execution sparked debate: were they guilty or just scapegoats? Either way, the Soviets tested their first bomb in 1949, only 4 years after Hiroshima. The US no longer had the only nuclear weapon. The world became a chessboard of nuclear threats, where survival depended on who could strike first or hit back harder. Fear grew in America, loyalty tests, investigations, and the Red Scare turned heroes into suspects. Even Oppenheimer lost his security clearance in a harsh hearing, showing how quickly trust faded. As you relax, picture the Stone Age fire's warmth against the cold shadow of the nuclear age. The cave paintings told stories of survival, the bomb told a story of power and loss. Let the contrast settle over you, a reminder of humanity's creativity and its challenges, as you breathe deeply and find peace in this moment. Let's keep that warm, soothing fire glowing in your mind, a gentle anchor as we wrap up our journey through the Stone Age and the Nuclear Age, then step into the vibrant world of ancient fashion. Picture yourself in a cozy, quiet space, letting these stories of human ingenuity and expression wash over you like a soft breeze. The atomic bomb ended World War II, but it started a new kind of conflict, colder, quieter, and scarier. From the labs of Los Alamos to the icy camps of Siberia, a new era began, filled with secrets, suspicion, and the constant fear of total destruction. The Manhattan Project shut down in 1946, but its shadow never faded. It changed everything: science, war, politics, and morality. It was like the birth of the modern world. The project showed that brainy ideas could turn into real power, leading to nuclear energy, space travel, and medical advances. But it also cast a dark cloud. For the first time, humans had a weapon that could wipe out everything. That fear shaped the Cold War, where the US and Soviet Union faced off, each with enough bombs to end the world, locked in a tense standoff called mutually assured destruction. Other countries: Britain, France, China, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea, built their own bombs, turning a desperate plan to stop the Nazis into a global race for power. Yet, amazingly, the bomb has only been used in war twice, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Its sheer horror might be why it stayed locked away since. The Manhattan Project also changed culture. Movies, books, and thinkers grappled with big questions: can science exist without a conscience? Is knowledge separate from responsibility? Oppenheimer, a symbol of this struggle, wasn't a hero or villain, just a person torn between brilliance and guilt. In 1965, he said scientists had known sin, a heavy reflection on their role. Today, the bomb's legacy lives in huge weapon stockpiles, peace treaties, and a fragile world where one button could change everything. As you relax, feel the weight of this shift, from ancient fires to nuclear flashes, and let it settle into a quiet moment of reflection. Now, let's travel back to ancient Mesopotamia, where clothes weren't just for covering up, they told everyone who you were. Your job, status, and even your connection to the gods showed in what you wore. It was like a code everyone had to follow, from kings to workers. Men wore simple wool or flax skirts or long robes with fancy fringes. The more layers and details, the higher your rank. Kings and nobles loved cloaks in rich reds, purples, or blues, made with expensive dyes that screamed wealth. Women wore woven gowns that wrapped across the body, often leaving one shoulder bare, with decorative edges. Jewelry, like gold necklaces or blue stone earrings, showed status or divine favor. Men took pride in curled, oiled beards, a sign of wisdom. Women styled their hair in buns or braids, sometimes wearing wigs for special events. Perfumes, oils, and eye makeup weren't just for looks, they kept away bad spirits or the sun's glare. Most went barefoot, but elites wore leather or silver sandals for big occasions. In Mesopotamia, your outfit wasn't just style, it was your place in the world, tied to religion and power. In ancient Egypt, clothes were about connecting to the gods. Linen, made from flax, was the go-to fabric, light and perfect for the desert. The rich wore fine, almost see-through linen that looked elegant and pure. Pharaohs and nobles had pleated kilts or robes with fancy sashes, the whiter the better to show divine favor. Women wore tight dresses called kulasiris, designed to highlight beauty and fertility, which were sacred. Jewelry, like scarab amulets or gold necklaces, was like spiritual protection. Wigs, made of hair or plants, showed rank, and some had wax cones that melted to release perfume. Makeup, like black eyeliner or green eyeshadow, wasn't just pretty, it shielded eyes from the sun and spirits. Everyone, from workers to queens, dressed to show their role and their link to the eternal. Ancient Greek fashion was simple but meaningful, all about balance and ideals. Clothes were made from wool or linen rectangles, draped and pinned, not sewn. The chiton, a tunic tied at the shoulders, was standard, knee-length for men, longer for women. Length mattered, short chitons meant you worked or fought, long ones showed you were young or a priest. A cloak called a himation was worn over it, wrapped tightly by philosophers to look serious. Women also wore a peplos, a heavy wool dress with a folded top that showed modesty. White was for ceremonies, dark colors for mourning, and bright yellows or purples for special events. Jewelry was simple, gold earrings or snake-shaped bracelets. Many went barefoot, but sandals or soft boots were common. Greek fashion was about living with virtue, every fold a reflection of their values. Roman fashion was bold and strict, showing off the empire's power and order. The toga, a huge wool cloth, was for male citizens only, especially the elite. It was tricky to wear right, and its color or stripes showed your rank, plain white for citizens, purple edges for officials, or full purple for emperors. Wearing the wrong toga could get you in trouble. Underneath, men wore a tunic, simple for slaves, fancier for senators. Women wore a long stola dress with a shawl called a palla, marking them as respectable. Jewelry, like rings and brooches, showed wealth or power. Hairstyles were elaborate, especially for women, who piled curls high with pins. Shoes, like senators' black leather calceus, had their own rules. In Rome, your clothes were law, showing discipline and pride in the empire. In the Persian Empire, fashion was like a dazzling show. Kings and nobles wore silk tunics and trousers, new for the time, covered in gold embroidery and mythical animal designs. The fancier your clothes, the closer you were to the king. Women wore long, layered dresses with veils, plus gold jewelry and makeup. Headgear, like tall tiaras or embroidered caps, showed rank. Colors had meaning, purple for royalty, white for priests, red and gold for sacred fire. Every detail, from a gem to a stitched lion, said the king was divine, and you had to know your place. In ancient India, clothes were art tied to religion and balance. People didn't sew, instead, they draped cloth like the dhoti for men, wrapped around the waist, or the sari for women, a long fabric draped over the shoulder. These showed region, status, or ritual purity. Cotton and silk were masterfully woven, some so fine they were called woven air. Jewelry, like bangles or nose rings, had spiritual meaning. Fashion was a sacred way to connect to the cosmos. In ancient China, clothes reflected order and harmony. The Hanfu robe, with wide sleeves and a tied sash, showed Confucian values. Colors followed the 5 elements, yellow for the emperor, red, blue, white, or black for others. Layers showed rank, peasants wore simple tunics. Women's hanfu had flowing skirts and pinned-up hair with jade or gold. Shoes and accessories, like jade pendants, carried deep meaning. Dressing right was a duty to the empire and the universe. Celtic and Germanic tribes wore bright wool clothes with plaid patterns that showed their clan. Men wore tunics and trousers, great for fighting or riding, while warriors sometimes fought shirtless with tattoos or blue paint. Women wore layered dresses and shawls, pinned with brooches. Jewelry, like thick-necked torques, showed wealth or protection. Hair was braided or bleached for style. Their clothes were bold, showing who they were in a world of war and movement. In the Byzantine Empire, fashion was a sacred performance. The emperor's robes, called loros, were covered in gold, pearls, and gems, making him look like a divine icon. Every stitch and jewel showed power and faith, blending Roman, Eastern, and Christian styles. As you relax, let these stories, of ancient creativity and the nuclear age's weight, blend into a peaceful moment. Picture the fire's glow and the vibrant fabrics, connecting us to humanity's endless drive to create, survive, and find meaning. Let's settle back into that cozy, firelit calm, imagining a quiet evening where the stories of ancient fashion and the evolution of eyeglasses unfold like a gentle stream. Picture yourself wrapped in warmth, letting these tales of human creativity and ingenuity soothe your mind as we bridge the past and present. In the Byzantine Empire, fashion was like a sacred performance, every outfit a mix of faith and power. The emperor's robes, called loros, were dazzling with gold, pearls, and gems, making him look like a living symbol of God. Purple, made from rare snail dye, was only for the imperial family, anyone else wearing it could get in big trouble. Even a hint of purple showed you were close to the throne. Senators, priests, and generals had their own strict dress codes for ceremonies. Everyone wore layered outfits, like tunics called dalmatica with wide sleeves and fancy embroidered strips. Over these, they draped cloaks called chlamys, pinned with cross or dove-shaped brooches. These layers weren't just for warmth, they showed humility and respect, tied to Christian values. Women wore long robes with tight cuffs, silk patterns, and veils or crowns that screamed both devotion and status. Jewelry was everywhere, earrings, necklaces, and belts with saintly icons. Even shoes had embroidery. Churches showed mosaics of royals in these robes, like fashion frozen in art. From merchants to monks, everyone's clothes matched their role in God's plan. Your outfit wasn't just clothes, it was your faith, woven in silk. Now, let's shift to a quieter innovation, eyeglasses, a simple invention that changed lives. Before glasses, bad eyesight was a lifelong struggle. If you couldn't see close-up, reading or crafting was nearly impossible. If you couldn't see far, you were stuck squinting. Ancient Egypt mentioned vision problems as early as 1500 BCE, but they only had herbs or prayers to offer. Greeks and Romans knew eyes got worse with age. Seneca used a water-filled glass ball to magnify text, like a clunky lens. By the 9th century, Islamic scholars like Al-Haytham studied how light bends in the eye, writing books that laid the groundwork for optics. Still, no wearable glasses existed. People used reading stones, polished glass or crystal placed on texts to make them bigger, but they were awkward and only worked line by line. The real breakthrough came in the late 1200s in Italy, likely Pisa or Venice. Craftsmen made the first wearable eyeglasses, turning magnifying lenses into portable tools. These early glasses helped with age-related farsightedness, letting older scholars and artisans keep working. They weren't fancy, just convex lenses in wood, bone, or metal frames, balanced on the nose or held by hand. By 1306, a monk named Giordano da Pisa mentioned this new art of glasses, dating their invention to around the 1280s. Venetian glassmakers, experts in clear crystal, made better lenses. Glasses spread among monks and scholars, who could now copy texts or read without strain. There were no eye exams, people just tried different lenses to find what worked. Nearsighted lenses came later, as people didn't fully understand distance vision yet. Still, glasses were a game changer, giving aging eyes a new lease on life. By the 1400s, glasses reached more people as towns and literacy grew. Merchants, artisans, and clerks needed to read contracts or ledgers, and glasses helped them stay sharp. With Gutenberg's printing press in 1450, books flooded Europe, and so did the need for glasses. They were sold by peddlers or apothecaries, made with simple wire or horn frames. Buyers tested lenses themselves, picking what felt right. In Nuremberg, spectacle makers formed guilds, and Venice and Florence became lens-making hubs. Glasses became a symbol of wisdom in art, with saints and scholars painted wearing them. As the middle class grew, glasses also showed you were educated or successful, no longer just for monks. The 1600s brought a scientific leap. Thinkers like Kepler and Galileo cracked the code on how lenses work. Kepler explained in 1604 how convex and concave lenses fix near and farsightedness, making glasses more precise. Galileo's telescope and early microscopes used similar lens ideas, turning glasses into tools for exploring stars and tiny cells. Opticians started calling themselves scientists, not just craftsmen. Frames got better. Some had nose pads or short arms called temples. In China, glasses had silk cords looped around ears, an idea Europe slowly adopted. Concave lenses for nearsightedness became common, helping younger people see far away. Glasses were now part of the Enlightenment, blending curiosity and science. By the 1700s, glasses were stylish, not just practical. The Enlightenment made intellect cool, and glasses became a fashion statement. Temple spectacles, with arms over the ears, appeared around the 1720s, making them comfier. Frames used tortoise shell, silver, or gold, sometimes with jewels for the rich. Benjamin Franklin invented bifocals in the 1780s, combining reading and distance lenses so he didn't need two pairs. Fancy accessories like the quizzing glass, a single lens on a chain, or the lorgnette, glasses with a handle, became trendy for aristocrats, especially women at operas. Glasses weren't just for seeing, they showed off wit and status. The 1800s made glasses affordable for everyone. The Industrial Revolution brought machines that churned out lenses and frames fast. Steel, nickel, and early plastic called celluloid replaced pricier materials. You could buy glasses at stores or through catalogs, trying pre-made lenses at home. Kids' glasses appeared as schools grew, helping students read blackboards. In 1862, Hermann Snellen's eye chart standardized vision tests, making prescriptions more accurate. Ophthalmology became a real medical field. Wearing glasses was no longer embarrassing, it showed you were serious and educated, a mark of the rising middle class. In the 1900s, glasses became a cultural icon. Hollywood stars like Harold Lloyd and Audrey Hepburn made them cool, showing personality, not weakness. World War II pushed lens tech forward with tougher, anti-glare coatings for soldiers. Plastic lenses in 1958 were lighter and safer than glass. Photochromic lenses, which darken in sunlight, added convenience. Contact lenses, practical by the 1950s, gave people options. Fashion exploded, cat-eye frames in the 60s, big aviators in the 70s, bold 80s styles, and sleek 90s rimless glasses. Whether you were a poet or a coder, your glasses said who you were. Today, glasses are high-tech. Digital tools craft lenses to fit your exact eyes, down to how you tilt your head. Screens strain our eyes, so glasses now block blue light or adjust for digital work. They're not just medical tools, they're fashion, identity, and tech all in one. As you relax, picture the journey from a Stone Age fire to a cave painting, from a monk's reading stone to sleek modern frames. Let the glow of human creativity, whether in ancient robes or life-changing lenses, wrap you in peace, connecting us across time. Let's keep that warm, cozy fire glowing in your mind, a soothing backdrop as we wrap up our journey through ancient fashion and the remarkable evolution of eyeglasses. Picture yourself in a quiet, calming space, letting these stories of human creativity and progress wash over you like a gentle evening breeze. Modern eyeglasses have come a long way, blending science, style, and technology. Progressive lenses now smoothly shift between near, middle, and far vision without the dizzying blur of older designs. As people started spending hours glued to screens, 8, 10, even 12 hours a day, eye strain became a big issue. Dry eyes, headaches, and blurry vision turned into everyday complaints. Lens makers fought back with blue light blocking coatings to ease fatigue and maybe even help you sleep better. Whether the science is rock solid or not, people love them, and demand keeps growing. Frames have gotten smarter, too. Superlight materials like titanium, memory metal, and carbon fiber make glasses so comfortable you barely notice them. Some have flexible hinges or allergy-free coatings, and you can even swap parts to match your style. Smart glasses are the next big thing. Early versions like Google Glass had a rough start, but now companies are adding audio, cameras, fitness trackers, or even mini screens right in the lenses. They're trying to make glasses that do more than correct vision, they're aiming to be part of your daily life, like a phone you wear on your face. Buying glasses has changed, too. Online stores let you upload a selfie, try on frames virtually, and get prescription lenses without leaving home. It's made glasses easier to get and turned them into a huge online business. Fashion's a big part of it. Round hipster frames, sleek minimalist looks, or retro styles let you show who you are. Glasses aren't just for seeing anymore, they're about protecting your eyes, expressing yourself, and even computing. Looking ahead, glasses are stepping into a wild new world. Big companies like Meta, Apple, and Amazon are working on augmented reality, AR, glasses that show digital info, like directions, messages, or 3D images, right in your view, no phone needed. It's like turning your glasses into a tiny computer. Lenses are getting even crazier. Some can change focus on their own using liquid crystals or smart tech, so you don't need bifocals or multiple pairs. They adjust to what you're looking at or the light around you in real time. Medical breakthroughs are pushing boundaries, too. Gene therapies and stem cell treatments are being tested to help with blindness. Bionic eyes, tiny implants for the retina or brain, are starting to give some vision back to people who've lost it. If these take off, glasses might not just fix vision but become a bridge to bigger solutions, maybe even replaced by tech inside your body. But glasses aren't going anywhere yet. Designers are keeping them fresh with 3D, printed frames, eco-friendly materials, and colors you can customize. Even virtual reality headsets, now sleeker thanks to optic science, owe a nod to the simple lenses of the past. From a monk's reading stone in 1200s Italy to today's smart glasses, this journey shows how a small idea, 2 lenses in a frame, became a medical marvel, a fashion statement, and a window to new worlds. As you relax, imagine that ancient fires glow blending with the sleek shine of modern lenses. Let the story of human ingenuity, from woven robes to digital eyewear, wrap you in a peaceful moment, connecting us across centuries of creativity and vision.